Let me hit record. Good evening. This is the Rutland Town Planning Commission, and it's May 30th of 2024. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda for May 30th,
Second.
2024.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, no public here for comment. So down to new business and the Cortina housing voucher update. There was some press on this, something in the Rutland Herald. I sat through the conversation. It was pretty interesting. There were 5 members from the Agency of Human Services, 1 virtual and 4 here in person. And they were pretty much grilled by the select board. So I'll just go through my notes. They're all, it's like one thing after the other here. So they admitted that Rutland has had more homeless people put up in hotels here per capita than any other part of the state. New legislation will reduce the number of hotel rooms used for this purpose. By September, there will be a cap, and that cap is 1,100. There are 400 still in Rutland, but that cap only applies in non-winter months. Once it be from December to April, there's no caps, and they haven't figured out how they're going to be distributing the caps yet. They're looking at the legislation that passed and how much money they have and all that kind of stuff. There will be a 80-day limit per year, but the residents can choose when they will use those 80 days. They don't have to be 80 days consecutively.
That includes winter months also.
I think so. Part of the long-term plans is to convert hotels and motels. It's a quick and easy way to convert to housing, is what they said, but they don't have any firm plan in Rutland. However, they're working on another long-term lease with the Cortina. There's a letter of intent that's been signed, no lease. And this may go through 2025, that lease. They're also looking at the Loretta home as a shelter, affordable housing services, maybe something a little more holistic than what they've been doing with some of the hotels. Cortina, over 100 rooms now, still being used by the homeless. I'll save Sharon's comments for the end. They're hoping for a proportional number for Rutland to match the statewide rate, to improve on that. And then the owner, Kumar, I forget his last name, the current owner of the Cortina, he spoke, and they were asking, the select board was asking him about, among other things, the sewage spill, and he blamed that on Taco Bell and the grease coming from the restaurant. And the Cortina's working with Taco Bell on paying the cleanup bill. our police chief said the police calls are still on the increase since he took over in July 2023, when the Cortina's ownership changed hands. He said eviction notices have been done, but the state is not helpful in that regard. And he said security work, especially on the back door and other places, is in progress. In the next month or two, we'll know more about the numbers from what the Agency of Human Services can do and how they will affect Rutland as they go through the new legislation. Mary Ashcroft said this certainly has had a commercial impact on that area, and that could potentially have an impact on the state with sales tax revenues and such. And she asked, so you're talking about maybe 1 or 2 more years of housing for the homeless? And they said yes. Mary said the Cortina is not the best place for long-term housing, and it will need an Act 250 permit amendment, and the select board and the planning commission. And I had been asked about this previously, whether, I thought that was appropriate, and I had said yes. She took that a step further at this meeting and said the select board and the planning commission will be parties, and will be an automatic party. The select board does that, goes back to Act 250 and tries to argue that it's in violation of that. The best comment was from Sharon Russell, and she just looked at the representatives, the state representatives, and said, wake up, you're going to destroy Rutland. And they just sat there and just kept taking notes and stuff like that. But so not a great situation. And hopefully I was speaking for everyone and saying that, we would want to be part of any further kind of curbing of what's going on down there. Is that a safe assumption?
Yes.
So kind of crazy stuff. To me, it's like the state is looking at Rutland. I mean, they've got a willing hotel owner, and they're going to milk that, it looks like. And the willing hotel owner is glad to go along.
And the rule that the state has relative to towns like Rutland Town, including in the zoning regulation, which is, it can't be done apparently as it relates to that situation. And that makes it real binding.
Mhm. Makes it tough.
I think the select board had ought to consider putting some pressure on the legislative delegation that represents us here, and see if they can't let at least let them know that we haven't rolled over and played dead.
And there may be some turnover in the delegation.
Well, we
With
got
an election
election
coming up.
with election coming up, there may be some changes of minds and some of this stuff, and
Mhm.
there also may be, I suppose there's the possibility it could be worse too, but we'll have to see. but nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, it's just, you know, the police are still spending an inordinate amount of time down there.
It, it wouldn't have been quite so bad if in the very beginning they had consulted with the select board,
Mhm.
but they didn't. They brought those people in here in the middle of the night. Nobody knew it.
Yeah, and you know, it definitely does look like they're not being screened very well, or it's not easy to get rid of the bad apples. Sharon Russell also said something about talking about the economic impact, that she refuses to go to the Green Mountain Plaza without her husband with her. He usually waits in the car while she shops, but just anecdotes like that, just, you know, just shattering. So didn't mean to put a damper on the meeting, but there were
Thanks
some
for the
things
update.
in the Herald story and some things that were not.
Okay, thanks for keeping us apprised of what's going on.
In other business. We got the go-ahead from the select board to apply for a housing inventory with the state municipal planning grant. It's a competitive grant statewide, but there is an emphasis on housing right now. So the new rules, if you will, for that grant will be released in June or maybe shortly thereafter. So we won't be working on it until then. And then it usually has a September, October due date.
Will we have to match some, is there a match for that grant?
Yeah, there's a 15% match, but it can't be more than $30,000. So, or maybe it's a
4,500.
10% match.
The grant can only be for, the max is 30,000,
From the state.
maximum state,
And the town can put in, you know, needs to put in at least
3 to
10.
4,500, yeah.
So we can have Logan, we can work with Logan on that application too. So that's that. Down to old business, Senate 213, the river corridors legislation that passed. It hasn't been vetoed yet. I guess there's a few more hours the governor has, right? He has until July. Oh, no, he has until July 1st.
June 1st, no?
June 1st?
July 1st would be a long time for a veto.
Right, and they've already scheduled an override session in the middle of
In
June.
It's,
so,
it's got to be
yeah.
June 1st.
Yeah. So it looks like that's going through. So we'll have that same dilemma, if you will. Do we go ahead and do river corridors? Do we wait for this? And we'll get some experts in to talk about that. So Bill would like any final input on his updated subdivision forms?
Do we have to take any action, Barbara, on the river corridors?
Nope.
That's just on
Just
the agenda.
information.
We'll be talking about that next meeting again.
Yeah. So Bill put together slightly revised instructions to apply for and file a subdivision.
Yep.
And then the verification sheet.
Yep.
If we can take a quick look at this.
So are we looking at
Oh, and
One of the planning
Hubbard will be
commissions?
back next, at our next meeting, it looks like, for
what's that?
the Hubbard family will be
Be
in
back next time.
that subdivision next time.
Okay.
Barbara,
Yeah,
on the subdivision forms. Did you get the email I sent you? Did you have a chance to read it?
From today?
Yes.
No.
Oh, I went through it. I have some pretty detailed comments and then some of the usual, characteristic, uh, wordsmithing. I could send this to Bill. I can send it to everybody. I didn't think to circulate it to everyone. I just sent it to you. I don't know whether we want to take the time to go through it line by line as I did in my email. Or just take it up directly with Bill before the next meeting.
Well, yeah, maybe a combination. Do you have some major concerns about what he's done in this reorganization?
Well, most of it is just things I thought were clear. There was a number of places in both regulations where I thought the language ought to be a little more affirmative, and the word shall should be used where it's not used. And I don't want to take up anybody's time with that. I can talk to Bill about it.
Mhm.
I think one of the more indefinite things that I found is that they talk about showing wooded areas on the Mylars and on the sketch plans and on the finals. And I don't see that being done very often in the materials we get. And also, how big does the wooded area have to be before it's shown, or other similar areas? And that is not indicated in there. And if we're going to require it, we obviously don't want every tree to be shown. So I think we need to define that in some manner that it's not there now.
Norman,
Yes.
rather than you just talking about what you found, if we're gonna discuss this, I'd prefer to go page by page.
Do we have time to do that, Barbara?
Yep,
Okay.
this is the main
Um,
action tonight.
if we go to the first page of instructions, right at the top in the box where it says this process may take between 6 to 12 weeks. I think we can just delete the word between and say may take 6 to 12 weeks. Paragraph 2, last word municipality, I think it should be a small m and not a capital M.
Where is this?
The
Page,
end,
first page.
yeah, first page or to the last word before it goes to A.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay. In 2A, second line, it says limited to a detail of the number of parcels. Not sure what that means. If it's a technical word that surveyors or draftsmen use, I'm not familiar with it, but it just,
Detail.
It's just the number of parcels, Norm.
I'm sorry?
It's just that they want it outlined as the number of parcels so that you can clearly see the parcels on the in the cover letter, that they reference the parcels.
I think that's good.
I don't have an issue with that.
I think maybe
Okay.
we take the A out, A detail, but not limited to detail of the number of parcels being created.
That would help.
I don't think it's worth, for me, it's not worth the time to
It's really overthinking it.
go, yeah, it's overthinking it. I mean, I'm a linguist and I don't have a problem with it, so. I understand what he's saying, and I understand the use of the term a detail as opposed to just the collective noun, so I'd let it be.
Okay, in B6, it says, you wooded areas, let's say, it's existing features and facilities, including roads, public utilities, and utility easements, wooded areas, structures, water courses, ledge, and wet areas and excessively steep slopes. That goes back to my earlier remarks about, what size wooded areas do we want to be shown? I mean, how big do they have to be? Again, I've never seen very much with regard to that and the stuff we've received over the years. And then I don't know what excessive,
Can I make a comment about that?
yep,
Those are in our subdivision regulations, which we have not yet amended, and therefore I think Bill is just carrying that terminology over because it also appears on the subdivision approval verification sheet in the exact same language. So I would say just leave it alone and move on.
if it's in the regulations, I guess we can't change it without changing the regulations.
Right, and I think that's what Bill tells us all the time. So until we change the subdivision regulations themselves, I say leave it alone. It's consistent in the other document that he sent us on the subdivision approval verification sheet.
Okay. Number 3, it says the request will be put on the agenda for a planning commission meeting and applicants will be notified when to attend, usually within 3 to 6 weeks. I think we should add of filing.
I don't think that's necessary.
Everybody?
Well, let me just ask this question, rather than taking up a lot of time, if everybody's comfortable with the way it is and doesn't have anything, it's not the end of the world to just move on.
I flagged that, Norman, but I did not add anything to it. So you're mentioning things that I have flagged. I think that it's fine to take out the word between and to change the capitalization on municipality. I didn't catch that. But it is in terms of adding to within filing, this is just a set of instructions, and if anybody has a question, they can ask. I think that is just being a little overly detailed. That's my perspective. If anybody in the room disagrees with me, they can follow your lead. But you and I are usually pretty much on the same page. On this, I think we're being a little too detailed.
Well, what can I say?
That same term, Norman, is repeated on the following page, under number 6. And it says a final hearing date will be scheduled usually within 3 to 6 weeks. So if it wasn't clear in number 3, it should be clear in number 6, and they're talking about paying the $300 subdivision permit fee.
Well, I read them slightly differently, but I don't think we need to split hairs about it. Let me just go on to number 4 and give an example of what what has struck me throughout the whole thing. It says applicants to provide all forms requested and to attend all meetings. My feeling, and again, maybe it's overkill, I think it should read applicants shall provide all forms requested and shall attend all scheduled meetings. And
Norman, the only objection that I'm going to make at this point is that this is not regulatory. It's a set of instructions. And I don't think that in a set of instructions, we need to be that nitpicky. It's actually to help the people filing understand what they need to do. So the actual wording is of less importance to me from a linguistic perspective because it's not judicial.
It's not a legal document.
It's not a legal document.
Just directions.
That's a great.
okay,
that's
I'm comfortable with that. Then the only other comment I have is on the requirements, number 7. It says identification of the zoning districts. And since we don't have zoning, I'm wondering if that should be eliminated.
Well, I think that comes from,
Where are you, Norman?
he's on Form 2, I believe.
Requirements for number 2,
I think that's in the zoning regulations. That's why
And
it's in there.
sub D, as Bill calls them.
Yeah.
number 7.
Number 7.
It's the yes, no waiver form number 7.
Identification, of the zoning district. I missed that one. Yep. Okay.
Is that how it reads in the subdivision ordinance?
It's how it reads and our requirements. So we can't change these because these are in the subdivision regs.
Okay,
Well, I thought we amended the subdivision regulations to take out the word zoning.
we edited them.
They haven't been adopted.
They
or
haven't been
approved.
adopted. They haven't been returned from the town attorney yet.
Right.
So anything else on Form 2,
Uh,
Norm or anyone else?
I found
Yeah,
I found that same thing elsewhere, Norman. And it is, that's on the subdivision approval verification sheet. So I'll wait till we get there, because the same thing about zoning appears there, but that language, I believe, is the same as what we found on 7.
On number 21, I think there's a typo. It says typical cross-section and profiled of proposed grading. Shouldn't that be profile singular?
Yeah,
Typical cross sections and profiles. I think it should be profile with an S, not a D. I think it was a
Yeah, I
typo.
wondered about that too. Which
Yep.
profile or profiles, one or the other.
Yep.
Okay, then on number 30. It seems to me the last sentence is incomplete. It says, before town acceptance of such streets is requested by the subdivider, his, her, and I think we ought to add the word it's there, successors and assigns, change it to assigns, or the owners of any lots created by the subdivision proposal. It doesn't,
It's not a complete sentence.
it's not a complete sentence.
well, it's all one run-on sentence, isn't it?
Yeah,
It starts,
starts at the top.
No, there's a period beforehand.
Yeah.
There's a period after the previous sentence, so.
You mean in B?
I don't know whether in B,
It,
in B, I don't know whether the sentence beginning with the word before is part of B, is part of 29B or 30. But whatever, the last sentence, what I consider to be the last sentence of 30 just doesn't make sense. Then it needs to be tweaked.
Yeah, there is something kinky with that.
I think that's a copy and paste error, but I'm not absolutely sure. But there is a complete sentence if you stop before that last line, Norman, and I'll read it. In 30, before a subdivision proposal can be approved by the planning commission, subdividers shall certify in writing all proposed streets will comply with design requirements contained in the town of Rutland Streets and Sidewalks Ordinance, period. I
Right.
don't know what the other thing doesn't say anything. So
So
I'd
that's
ask Bill
yeah,
to go back and check that.
Yeah,
Yes,
I agree. I mean, the first sentence that you just read makes sense. It's the second sentence I can't follow.
It doesn't say anything,
right.
Yeah.
So
So
Bill,
we-
yeah, number 30 needs
just to have
some
them
work.
check that. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that this has been raised before.
Yep,
yeah, maybe the whole thing, all of what he has for 30, I think should be.
Yeah.
reviewed.
yeah.
Sure. But the first part does make sense.
I would think.
You don't think so? Before a subdivision proposal can be approved,
Subdivision,
all proposed streets will comply with design requirements contained in the town.
Well,
yeah, that makes sense to me.
But I mean, he can check it.
Dividers shall certify in writing, and then it says all And in writing is in commas, all proposed streets.
Will comply with the design requirements.
Yeah,
Well, maybe they take out the comma. Would read better.
there's something, something irregular there.
Yeah, yeah. It needs to be looked at in entirety, like.
Okay.
Okay, how about the verification sheet?
I didn't read that.
I did. The verification sheet, I just have a couple of questions on. The action needed is only applicable. That's on the very bottom of page 1. Preliminary plat for major, final plat for minor, meets all requirements, yes, no. If you circle no, then there's action needed, correct? That's just an interpretation. And then on the next page, you list the action items if you get a no. I'm just going through the logic. Is that correct? So the action items are needed, are put in those lines if we have a no on meeting the requirements. Then the public hearing date which is final for a minor or preliminary for a major. Then there's a second. This is confusing to me. There's a box and then it says plat meets all requirements, yes, no. Final for minor, preliminary for major. It seems like it's redundant.
Yeah, that is.
So something needs to come out. And I'm not exactly sure what, but then we have the box, which does the same thing. The box is for major subdivisions only. And I think we can take out the first line above the box. Plat meets all requirements, because that seems to be a copy and paste from the previous page. So the previous page would be just addressing the minor subdivision or the preliminary submission for a major. Then the hearing date is put in there, and then only for subdivisions only, you fill out the second box.
It looks like that plat meets all requirements in top of the box belongs on the previous page before the,
And it's there.
Yeah. it's
Page
there.
1 has it, and then you have the comments and actions.
I can't find no one.
But the plat meets all requirements appears 3 times, and I don't think that that's correct. I think that it's only twice if needed. Are people following me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm. Bill, hopefully you're following too.
I only see it twice, Dana. Oh, I'm sorry. I see it now. I see it.
Bottom of page 1, it's all by itself. It's
And then it's twice on the same, yeah,
orphaned.
twice on
And
page
you have the
2.
comments afterwards, and then the public hearing date. If we follow that same procedure, then we would do plat meets all requirements. I mean, it should say for subdivisions only, put the plat meets all requirements underneath that, and then have the comments and actions, taking out the third plat meets all requirements in the box on the last line, if people follow me.
Yeah,
That can come out.
because we don't do a review of the final plat. Yes. That is correct. We can take that out.
That line can come out, right? And that just goes to, Bill can take that out. The other one, the plat meets all requirements, that should go underneath in the box. The one that's above the box, I don't know if you can see what I have, but this is the one that Bill sent us. We have the box here. It says for major. This line up here should be in the box, because we've already taken care of it on the previous page for a minor subdivision or a preliminary.
Right, and above the comments.
And above the
action
comments, that would make it consistent with the format for a minor subdivision, and it would be okay, but
Okay.
everybody in agreement with that?
Anything else, Norm?
Nope. Nope.
Okay. Good. And I think we'll just mention the bill to get in touch with Dana and you if he has any questions after listening. Okay, got a few more minutes in the room here. Any announcements? Andy, we need to clear out to let the vote counters come in.
Did we start early tonight? I
Yeah,
don't
we-
know about it.
We started at 6.
Okay.
Okay, let's go down to the minutes of May 9th.
Move to approve the minutes of May 9th.
Second.
Thanks, Andy.
Let's look at these. Okay, any discussion?
Think you're okay?
Okay, ready for the question? All those in favor of approving these minutes as prepared by Bill, please say aye.
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 Opposed,
I'll abstain. I wasn't here.
abstain, and
I'll abstain.
okay. Great. Okay, yeah, anything else for tonight? Maybe we can fill Andy in on all the good news from the Cortina. But anything for the record here? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I so move.
I'll second.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.